Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and if you're new, welcome to the channel. Today we're doing Cosmic Ghost Rider for Dummies Volume 1, and this is different from my other videos. I normally just do one whole video on a character, but Cosmic Ghost Rider is more complex. So when you learn something, let's say in school, you usually learn the concept and then the application. So this video is just going to be the concept, and the second video will end up being the application. So I'll teach you how to use them here, and then the next video will show you where you can use them, how you can use them in certain fights, and do a better explanation of that. The reason I broke it up into two videos is just viewing purposes. If people want to see just the concept, well, this is it. And if they want to see just the application, well, then they'll have that, just to make it easier on the viewers. So Cosmic Ghost Rider's complexity comes from his judgments. Each judgment you place on the opponent gives you a buff. So if you finish a 5-hit combo with a medium attack, you get a vigilance buff. If you finish a 5-hit combo with a light attack, you get a power gain buff. Also, when activating dexterity, that places a precision buff on yourself, counting as a judgment on the opponent. And also when you charge your heavy attack, you get an aptitude buff. That also counts as a judgment. So all special attacks give you 2 buffs. Also those count as judgments, like I've said before. Your special 3 gets you a fury and a cruelty buff. Your special 2 gives you precision and a cruelty buff. And seen in this next clip, your special 1 gives you an unblockable and a cruelty buff. And if you kind of suck at the game like I do, if you get hit, you get an armor up buff, and that counts as a judgment as well. Each judgment can only be activated once per judgment cycle, and judgment cycles are 5 judgments each. And once you hit 5 judgments, you'll either place a power lock on the opponent if you are unawakened, or a damnation debuff on the opponent if you are awakened. So this clip now shows my favorite rotation, which is special 3, then special 2, and if you can, another special 2. So you finish a 5-hit combo with a medium attack for the vigilance, then you dex to activate the precision buff, and then you finish a 5-hit combo with a light attack to get the power gain, and then that will put you near a special 3. Also, each judgment placed on the opponent increases the duration of any buff triggered on Cosmic Ghost Rider by 20%. And when you have 5 judgments in place, this bonus is double. So what you do now is you parry and charge your heavy. Charging your heavy gives you the aptitude buff, like I said earlier. That counts as a judgment. Then when you launch a special attack that gives you a cruelty buff, that also gives you a judgment. But each special attack also has their own unique buff that comes along with it that also counts as a judgment. Special 3 gives you a fury, and that duration is doubled because you already have 5 judgments in place once you get the fury. So you get an extended duration on the fury, which gives you more damage, which makes this one of my favorite rotations. So just like before we use the special 3, the rotation stays exactly the same after you use the special 3, only you don't trigger dex because you want that precision buff from your special 2 because it's more potent and the duration's a lot longer. So on a 5-star rank 5, the special 2 precision buff increases your critical rating by 8,400 for 10 seconds, but the duration's increased based on how many judgments you have on the opponent, like I said earlier. One thing I didn't mention, his special 2 has a 100% chance to inflict armor breaks on the opponent, and it reduces the armor rating by 1,700 for 15 seconds, which is very, very vital in his damage. And if you can't armor break the opponent, you're not going to be hitting as hard as you normally would. He'll still hit decently hard, but you won't see the insane numbers that he's known for. So the previous rotation shown was my go-to, like I said earlier. It's really good for any health pool above 350,000. You can still use it for health pools below that, but it's just going to be too much overkill. And the rotation that I'm showing now is perfect for health pools that are below 350k. So the main focus of this rotation is just to use as much special 2s as you can. And it's basically the same way you want to use Cosmic Ghost Rider as you would after a special 3. You don't want to trigger dexterity because you want the precision from your special 2. And you just focus on trying to loop as many as you can while the armor breaks are active. So this rotation, when you compare it to the one I like better, it does have some pros and cons. One pro being you don't have to watch the special 3 animation at all if you choose not to. You can completely avoid using the special 3, and certain fights will allow you to do that. Certain fights you want to use the special 3 because you need more damage and you want to try to make the fight as fast as possible. So health pools over 350,000, yeah, you're going to want to use special 3 to increase your damage. But health pools under, this will work just fine. Another pro is that you're doing the same thing every judgment cycle. You're just trying to get the special 2 to be your reset on the judgment cycle, and you don't have to worry about trying to do something else. It's just the same thing over and over and over until the opponent is knocked out. So here come the cons. It's not as suicide friendly as the first one. The first one, usually a special 3 and a special 2, sorts out the enemy, and you won't have to worry about recoil. This one, you kind of will have to worry about recoil, although it's not going to kill you too much because usually 2-3 special 2s and the opponent's knocked out. But it is something to keep in mind. So this next rotation, I call it the anti-miss rotation because you focus on keeping the vigilance buff up the longest. You make sure it's the last one that you use to reset the judgment cycle. And it will yield the least amount of damage when compared to the other two, but this one focuses on his utility rather than his damage. And his damage is actually still very decent when you do this rotation. So usually your vigilance buff is just a throwaway buff. You don't care about it because most characters don't have any miss mechanic that you have to try to fight around. But there are characters who do have invisibility or the ability to phase, like Invisible Woman, Darkhawk, Ghost. Although Ghost is a villain, and I forgot to mention this, any villain Cosmic Ghost Rider fights against, he places an armor break on the opponent, and it's an indefinite one. So it could shut down Killmonger, Mysterio, Ghost, and a bunch of other villains that could get annoying if they have an armor up. But anyways, back to this rotation. You may have wondered why I use a special 1 immediately, and that's just to get 2 judgments on the opponent as fast as possible. That way I could get my vigilance buff up as quick as possible. So I triggered Dex, triggered Power Gain, triggered Special 1 that puts me at 4, then I trigger Vigilance that resets my judgment cycle, and Vigilance becomes the longest buff I activated. So once you get into this rotation and you get the Vigilance buff active, you can start trying to avoid Special 1s and start throwing the Special 2s so you can get more damage. And you could even throw in a Special 3 if you want to. I end up doing that later in this clip. But you could do it however you want because each special attack gives you 2 judgments on the opponent. You just have to make sure that the vigilance buff is the last one activated. And there's no fight where you need 100% uptime on a vigilance buff. There's no character who is invisible or phases for the whole fight. That would just be ridiculous. But Cosmic Ghost Rider can have a actually very significant uptime on his vigilance buff, and it makes him a decent counter to any character who goes invisible. So with all that being said about no character phasing the whole fight, if you time everything right, you can have Cosmic Ghost Rider work very well to counter a character who has a miss mechanic. And there's certain characters like Ghost, Mysterio who can go invisible or phase, and he already shuts them down with his armor break that he places on indefinitely because they're villains. And to add on to that, you could focus on the Vigilance buff 1 judgment cycle, and then focus on damage the next, because you're not always going to need the Vigilance buff. So I did some quick maths in Excel. I could have done it by hand, but I didn't want to show off to you guys. So I ended up finding out that he had a 66% uptime when you focus on the Vigilance buff, which is very good. Not a lot of characters have that kind of uptime on a miss mechanic, but here you can see against Guillotine, she did her Digicloak, and I should have missed, but I didn't. So now we have my favorite synergy team for him, excluding Cyclops, as great as he is. I really could care less to bring him with Cosmic Ghost Rider. So starting with the core of this team, we have Cosmic Ghost Rider, of course, and then we have Night Thrasher. Night Thrasher allows Cosmic Ghost Rider's armor break debuffs to have 35% extended duration. And then Night Thrasher and Mr. Fantastic have a synergy where Cosmic and skill characters, their basic attacks pause each buff on them for 0.2 seconds per basic hit, which will allow you to stack up your buffs on Cosmic Ghost Rider and achieve some pretty crazy things. I ended up stacking 4 Fury buffs with a 4-star. And shameless shout out, yeah, that's on my channel if you want to check it out. It'll be at the end of the video. You don't have to click it if you don't want to. You'll never need that amount of damage from a 5-star. I don't know any health pool that will permit you to do this, but here you can see that synergy in action. It allowed me to extend the duration of my Power Gain buff, which allowed me to skyrocket to a special 3. And unfortunately in this actual clip I couldn't do it, but I wanted to show you guys the potential of it. But you can actually ramp up his damage pretty high if you have this team. And if there's ever a crazy health pool where there's no damage cap and you need someone who can take down a huge health pool, he might be your guy in the future, because you might see some pretty insane special 2s dropping from this guy if you could stack up to 4 Furies with a 5-star. But there's no content in the game where you could ever do it and actually see the results. The best place is, I think it's Abyss with an 85,000 damage cap, but each hit would just be the damage cap. And that would, I mean, it'd be cool to see, but it's not really necessary. Also, Magneto House of X has a synergy with himself that gives all hero characters plus 8% attack rating and all metal characters 10% ability accuracy. Well, Cosmic Ghost Rider is both of those, so therefore he benefits from both of aspects of that synergy. And if that wasn't enough, Magneto's pre-fight, it gives attackers using it plus 15% attack, and then metal and hero attackers will trigger a passive stun effect when you use parry instead of just the normal debuffs, and you also get a plus 0.5 second duration. This is very useful for certain matchups like Labyrinth of Legends with the Limber mechanic, or any other Limber node in the game, because Cosmic Ghost Rider relies on parrying because you don't want to activate dexterity. So this will guarantee that you will be able to land a stun when you need to. So that's going to be it for this video. Part 2 will come out soon. It's not going to be the next one I release, but it'll come soon. So like if you enjoyed the video, comment if you have questions, subscribe if you're new. I have a Discord that will be in the description. Join if you want, and I will see you guys for the next video.
What we do here is go back.